The Underground Railroad was a secret network of routes and safe houses used by slaves to escape the South and attain freedom. It was headed by daring abolitionists, including Harriet Tubman, William Still, and Levi Coffin, who, from the railroad's beginning in the early 1800s to the start of the Civil War, had helped an estimated 100,000 slaves escape. Those attempting to run away faced numerous challenges, such as a lack of geographical knowledge and slave patrols, which would stop wandering blacks throughout the South and demand to see their travel permits. If caught, slaves would be whipped severely and sent back to work. The conductors, individuals who guided slaves between safe houses, came from a variety of different backgrounds: freeborn blacks, former slaves, and white abolitionists, including many Quakers. A common misconception of the North is that they were all staunch abolitionists and supporters of the Underground Railroad. This is simply not true. Rather, most Northerners just didn't have a strong opinion regarding slavery. Yet, with the growing power of the abolition movement, more and more began to oppose slavery, and some even assisted runaways on the railroad. Although many Northerners didn't care if slavery was occurring in the faraway cotton fields of the Deep South, they did not want to be required to assist in the recapture of runaways, as was mandated by the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. As a result of the creation of this act, even more Northerners began to support the abolition movement, and thus the Underground Railroad as well. A Southern newspaper from 1852 reads, $100 reward. Ran away from the subscriber on the 16th instant, a Negro boy named George Stewart, a slave for life. The boy is about 20 years of age, 5 feet in height. It is likely that this slave escaped via the Underground Railroad. Although it is to be noted that only about a quarter of the families in the South actually owned slaves, these families were very powerful. The concerns of the planter aristocracy were the concerns of the South. Also, slavery had become a part of the Southern identity. Nearly all Southerners strongly opposed the Underground Railroad. Since so many slaves were escaping to the North using the Underground Railroad, the South sought a way to recapture these runaways, and, in the Compromise of 1850, they got their wish with the Fugitive Slave Act. Because the act required citizens to comply with an institution which they did not necessarily believe in, feelings of outrage spread throughout the North, and the abolition movement continued to grow, thus increasing the tensions between the North and South, which was economically, socially, and politically dependent on slavery. Uncle Tom's Cabin is an anti-slavery novel written by Harriet Beecher Stowe in 1852. The novel focuses on the struggles of a slave named Uncle Tom in order to depict the reality of slavery, and also presents an idea originating from the Second Great Awakening that good Christians can overcome such an institution. It would become the second best-selling book of the 19th century, behind only the Bible. Stowe's motivation for writing came from her experience of living in Ohio, where she heard first-hand accounts of slavery and witnessed it on occasion when she ventured across the Ohio River into Kentucky. Furthermore, Stowe was influenced by the recent creation of the Compromise of 1850, which, although it banned slave trade in the nation's capital, also created a stricter version of the Fugitive Slave Law. This new Fugitive Slave Law required everybody, even ordinary citizens, to assist in the recapture of escaped slaves. By writing Uncle Tom's Cabin, she was hoping to show the public what slavery was really like and get them to support a movement for abolition. Uncle Tom's Cabin brought the horrors of slavery to Northerners on a more personal level than ever before, and caused them to sympathize with slaves. Furthermore, Northerners were able to connect with Stowe due to their resentment towards the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. It is of note, however, that some radical abolitionists were opposed to the novel, as they believed it was not forceful enough in its call to immediately end slavery. Southerners saw Uncle Tom's Cabin as a deceitful, one-sided story of slavery in the South, and as an attack on the Southern home, which was depicted as unstable and merely a commercial system. In response to the novel, Southern writers began to create so-called anti-Tom literature, which argued that the issues of slavery brought up by Stowe were exaggerated and incorrect. In other words, Uncle Tom's Cabin was viewed by Southerners as unfair accusations against their peculiar institution. Like the Fugitive Slave Act, Uncle Tom's Cabin galvanized the abolition movement in the North by personalizing the institution of slavery. This growing strength of the abolitionists during the 1850s only furthered the tensions between the North and South and put the nation on a path to war. It is rumored that when Abraham Lincoln met Stowe in 1862, he remarked, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war?"